Hello and welcome back to another movie review. Today we're talking about Avatar Fire and Ash. I felt a certain degree of skepticism each time a new Avatar sequel comes out because I know that visually it'll be a spectacle, but ever since the first one, have been concerned about whether they'll deliver on the story front. The second movie, Way of Water, definitely felt like a vindication of that concern. They moved the protagonist to a new setting, and there were some compelling ideas, some new ideas there, but a lot of it felt needlessly repetitive, and I wasn't sure why they had made those choices. Why did they choose to resurrect the villain other than because the actor was really charismatic? The final confrontation, it had some bigger personal stakes, but it still gave some really strong, this is the fight from the first movie but wet vibes, and so I definitely had that hesitation again going into Fire and Ash. I hoped that at least they would do as before and move the characters to, an interesting new setting where we'd have lots to see that's at least new visually. But for the most part, I was let down. And to be clear about why, I will probably need to get into some spoiler territory, so be prepared for that. But as expected, Fire and Ash was a treat visually. Everything looked cool. There were some amazing set pieces and impressive action shots. All of the Pandoran fauna and flora was super cool, and they did do some cool new things with them. But I felt like overall almost nothing that was an issue in The Way of Water was really addressed in Fire and Ash. And if anything, it actually became even more repetitive. Most of the movie remained in the same locations as Way of Water. Overall, there wasn't a lot of the cool new Pandoran biology introduced, and what little there was mostly revealed in the trailers and didn't stick around for very long. So there wasn't as much excitement in how they were going to use that. The story felt a lot like a retread as well. There was just a long back and forth of characters capturing one another's children in an effort to make their enemies surrender. The main villain, Quaritch, his arc for the movie was also, this wasn't necessarily something that was supposed to be subtle, but it very plainly mirrored Jake Sully's arc from the first movie, except that everyone in his circle was just kind of an evil asshole instead of a noble hero type. I think probably the worst of all, though, in my book, was that the entire final confrontation was even more of a beat-for-beat retread of the battle from the first movie, right down to starting with a montage of Jake rallying other clans to join the fight. It opens with the heroes having this decently successful ambush as the villains march their massive force against them. The tide slowly turns against them. It's just not enough. They're outnumbered, or really it's outmatched. They usually have the numbers on their side. But then at the heroes' request, the planet deity summons an army of wildlife that just dramatically swings the fight in their favor and kind of wins it for the good guys. Now in the first movie, notably, I think Jake was able to sort of casually connect with the spirit of Awa to ask for help from the Na'vi goddess. And he's very clearly answered. There's an entire army of wildlife that shows up, smashes up the human forces. But in this movie, the circumstances are very similar, but for some reason Jake doesn't bother trying to do that, or it doesn't occur to him to do that. And then instead, for some reason, the only person who is able to do it is the daughter of Sigourney Weaver's character Grace from the first movie. And both Way of Water and Fire and Ash were constantly reminding us the whole time that it was dangerous for her to do that she could die, which, spoiler alert, she does not. It's just very dramatic. And, there is kind of an underlying interesting setup there for her to assume this sort of druidic avatar role, like an avatar of the planet itself. There's some cool visuals that they use when they're going into that with her, but we already saw somebody who was unconnected to it in that way do the same feat. So why was it so hard in this instance? So that didn't really work for me. I understood kind of what they were building towards, but the path to get there felt kind of contrived. So all this combined meant that despite a pretty exhilarating final battle, when I walked out at the end, I was kind of disappointed. I know James Cameron has at least one or two more of these movies planned, and I understand that he has to leave some questions to answer in those movies, but it really seemed like more could have been pushed forward in this movie. But what did you think? Did you get to see Fire and Ash, and what did you think about the handling of the story and the characters? Did I miss something that would have made it a little bit more deep and enjoyable, or do you kind of feel like they rehashed a lot? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for tuning in. Until next time, this is Daft Pirate signing off.